address the human costs. We cannot have an independent press if our journalists are struggling with mental health challenges or financial instability. A journalist who cannot afford a meal is a journalist vulnerable to influence. Stability is our best defense against violence. The latest World Press Freedom Index tells us that global press freedom is at its lowest level in over 2 decades. Only a tiny fraction of humanity enjoys a truly free press. UNESCO reminds us that we are on a complex battlefield where misinformation spreads faster than facts and attacks against women journalists are rising sharply. What does this mean for us? It means the conversation about peace cannot be separated from the conversation about journalism. Where journalism is weakened, truth becomes fragile. And where truth is fragile, peace becomes impossible. To the 75% who are about to cover their first election, the Kenya Editors Guild stands with you. We will continue to advocate for your safety, your rights, and your dignity. To our guests, engagers, criticals, but above all, let us protect the mirror so that together we can see the path toward a future at peace. As I conclude, as my colleague has stated, I invite you all to be part of our inaugural Pan-African Media Summit on 13th and 14th at Safari Park. 13th and 14th of this month. Kindly register and join us as we continue to shape the future of media in our continent. Let us not just report on the future. Let us ensure the future we shape is one where truth prevails and peace is permanent. Thank you very much for your attention.
Next is I want to invite Dr. Strathmore, obviously in the speech, he will also welcome us. So we are looking at protocol, we will have come number one, but
Thank you very much. Our chief guest, the Honorable Justice Isaac Yomala, all protocols allowed. Good morning. Allow me to write on the protocol that has already been mentioned before. And on behalf of Strathmore University Management and the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, I'd like to welcome you to Strathmore University as we congregate to mark the 2026 World Press Freedom Day under the theme Shaping a Future at Peace. And considering that we are a university and we are interested in helping students, in helping the young to forge their way in different areas, in different selection of courses, then we find that this is very relevant for us today. We at Strathmore, and especially the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, are delighted to host you because under the banner of one of our programs, the Bachelor of Arts in Communication, this course is more than an academic program. It is a space where we try to shape our young so that they may become future journalists, communicators, and media leaders who are well-formed and who really resonate with some of the themes that you have today. At the school, we are intentional about producing graduates who are not only skilled, but also grounded in our ethical values. Some of the principles we hold strongly at Strathmore, you may have seen them as you walk around, but I want to outline two of them that resonate with what we are celebrating today. We strongly emphasize freedom and responsibility as a value and service to society. These principles guide us as we strive to develop professionals who understand that communication is not merely about transmitting information, but about shaping the society. Sometimes I see the stories that the students are able to write, I see the films that they produce, and for sure, depending on what they do, depending on some of these things, how they've written, actually they shape how we think, they shape what we think, and sometimes even how we are going to respond to an issue. And so those of you who are here as communication specialists and those in other areas realize that you play a very big role. Today's event is therefore a strong endorsement of our communication program and a reminder of our responsibility to nurture ethical communicators who can contribute meaningfully, not only for their own welfare, but they contribute meaningfully to the nation and to the global conversation, especially about peace. Freedom and responsibility are essential in media practice. A free press is crucial, but a responsible press is essential for us to have peace. In a media landscape often shaped by information overload, AI-generated material, disputed facts, and at times a free and responsible media, many times a free and responsible media is critical. Peace is achieved through the promotion of justice and accountability, and the existence of an informed society. All this cannot exist without media that is both free, peaceful, and ethical. For us at Strathmore, this event holds special meaning. For those students we have today, or who are part of this function and are part of this day, you're entering a field that demands courage, integrity, and discernment. You will be called upon many times to communicate in moments of tension, to verify in times of uncertainty, and to remain principled, ethical, when it is most difficult. You should always remember, as we always tell you, your freedom to tell stories, carry the responsibility to tell them truthfully, fairly, and with humanity. As we walk towards shaping our future for peace, let us ask ourselves, what kind of media landscape are we building? Are we promoting dialogue or division? Are we informing citizens or inflaming tension? Let this day help us make a renewed commitment to defend press freedom, to uphold ethical standards in journalism and in any area that we work in, to support journalists in their vital work, and to nurture the next generation to communicate with both freedom, responsibility, and peace. In conclusion, I encourage all of us here today to continue collaborating, since we all come from different areas, to ensure that media serves as a force of truth, justice, and peace. Ultimately, a peaceful future is not something that simply comes into existence. It is something we must actively shape. And at Strathmore University, we have that responsibility of shaping the young ones so that they come out to do the best that they can possibly do. I wish to thank you once again for choosing Strathmore, for coming to celebrate this day here together with us. And I wish you a meaningful and impactful World Press Freedom Day.
As you're aware, a number of people have mentioned it, next week, that is the 13th, 14th, we have the Pan-African Media Conference in Nairobi. It's by invitation. So I don't say the venue. By invitation. So but the only thing you need to do is put the invitation, the application place, then you apply. So that then you manage the numbers as you are aware, the human barriers. So the number of people coming. So 13, 14, global, we will bring together people from Taiwan, Africa, countries from Africa, Asia, Europe, so far confirmed. A number of panel discussions on a number of issues starting from AI, information manipulation, ethics, media regulation, machine one.
That is the whole idea.
Inviting, we must put in some effort. Wi-Fi to apply, and we utasoma hizo za apply for benefits. So obviously, and for the discussions, those of you who read and interested in the topic at hand, you could also look at I accuse the press by people here, and then the notebook, it has some of the issues that are coming up here. My friend is journalism by Howard Ross, well good book. You can also read the CNN effects, the media piece, and discussion to humanities deliberate. The time is not by we want to have strong engagements with learning institutions so that we can spur research. We want to see topics that people do businesses on reason is not the target of the students start doing things and this discussion universities before we inspire students to start looking at media and the environment. So having said that, I want to clarify and see the police box and what was.
This very honorable people here to give reports from the Inspector General himself, who have been here, but is involved in another state function this morning. Before I read some remarks from the Inspector General, let me say this. At the National Police Service, we continue to engage with the media. We continue to every day engage and talk. Because I know we've been accused in the past, particularly the National Police Service, that we've trampled on the rights of the media. It's true. There's been a history, but moving forward and in the continued journey of reforms and transformation, the assurance from the Inspector General and the National Police Service at large is that the space that we occupy between ourselves as National Police Service and the media, the space is enough for all of us. So it's a question of working collaboratively in an interactive way to ensure that this space is a space for the service of Kenyans. Occupy a higher space than the media, that in the journey of transformation and reforms, we can only get better. Allow me to read the remarks from the Inspector General of the National Police Service Mr. Douglas Karanja, on this day where we are commemorating World Press Freedom Day at this great institution, I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the Media Council of Kenya for the invitation and for recognizing the importance of the security perspective in safeguarding press freedom and strengthening responsible journalism in Kenya. Yesterday, we joined the rest of the world in marking the word freedom. It's actually today, themed shaping a future of peace. It's a day that reminds us that it's vital, the vital role a free and independent media plays in our society. Today, we gather at this forum not only in celebration, but also with a shared sense of purpose. It is an opportunity to reflect deeply on the evolving landscape of media and journalism, to confront the pressing challenges and threats facing the profession, among other important discussions. This moment calls for renewed commitment and collective action. We must foster collaboration among ourselves, the stakeholders here represented, and strengthen frameworks that protect press freedom. By doing so, we can move forward with a unified vision, one that ensures the media continues to serve as a pillar of accountability, truth, and public trust in an ever-changing world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our presence here today is a testament to the fact that security and freedom are not opposing forces, but responsibilities that must be balanced with care and integrity. It also speaks to the role of policing, not only as enforcers of the law, but as defenders of fundamental rights and freedoms, to the critical partnership between law enforcement and the media in safeguarding democracy, fostering transparency and public trust, and to the recognition that we must coexist and support one another. Article 34 of the Constitution of Kenya places media freedom as a pillar of democracy. It guarantees the freedom and independence of the media. Article 33 of the Constitution complements this by guaranteeing freedom of expression for every person, the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas. These provisions together affirm that a free press is not optional. It is a constitutional right and a cornerstone of our democracy, but one which must be exercised in compliance with Article 33, subsection 2. As the National Police Service, it's our duty to ensure that those who seek truth can do so without fear or intimidation. Our duty is to maintain law and order, but equally it's to uphold the rights and freedoms guaranteed to every citizen, including the freedom of the press. Indeed, the work of journalists is not easy. You go where many would hesitate to go. You report from scenes of conflict, crime, and crisis. You ask difficult questions, and you hold institutions, including our own, accountable. The National Police Service recognizes this as an essential part of democracy. It must therefore be clear that the role of the police is not to obstruct the media, but to support and protect their law of work. This means respecting the rights of journalists to report freely. It means enabling them to carry out their work without intimidation, harassment, or unnecessary restrictions. It means recognizing their presence at public events, scenes of crime, and incidents as legitimate and important. Equally, important is the safety of journalists. No member of the press should face violence or threats simply for doing their job. As police officers, we have a duty to ensure their protection, just as we would for any other citizen. Any attack on a journalist is an attack on the public's right to know. Our responsibility as the National Police Service also calls for a deliberate and continuous transformation in how we communicate. The timely release of accurate, informative, and factual information is essential to curb speculation and the spread of misinformation. In this digital age, where information travels instantly and narratives can quickly become distorted, clarity and consistency are not optional, they are indeed a duty. When we communicate truthfully, proactively, and with accountability in mind, we strengthen public confidence. This extends beyond the media to our institutions as a whole, reinforcing legitimacy, cooperation, and civic responsibility. Through the Directorate of Corporate Communication and the police spokesperson, the service is committed to continually improving engagement with the media and the public. This includes enhancing responsiveness, embracing social media and modern communication platforms, building the capacity of officers in strategic communication, and fostering constructive partnership with journalists. By so doing, we aim to create an environment where accurate information prevails, mutual respect is upheld, and both the police and the media can effectively serve the public interest. The National Police Service remains open and receptive to continued dialogue and engagement with the media on all matters of public interest. We have had the privilege of hosting many of you, and we look forward to continued partnership. This occasion offers us a moment of reflection and marks a renewed commitment to partnership. We are partners serving the same public. When we work together with mutual respect and understanding, we strengthen transparency, accountability, and ultimately democracy itself. To all of you in the media, we recognize your contribution, we respect your role, and we commit to support your work. Finally, the National Police Service remains steadfast in its commitment to providing the highest quality of service and maintaining public trust, professionalism, accountability, and community engagement. We are dedicated to upholding the law, protecting licensed property, and promoting safe and secure environment for all, including journalists. Thank you.
Remember, we had a subscription on the coalition on the rapid response, and we had a focal point under your department.
Yeah.
You could revise it, it was very helpful. And where they had stationed a particular officer to be dealing with matters related to media for rapid response, if our journalists tackle, so we could call and we could help, get help. So it's something that you could think through.
No doubt about that, and we are going to engage a little bit more on that, even after this forum. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and obviously we have had a very good working relation. Kenya Media, the Editors Guild and Media Council of Kenya have been invited officially severally to do training in Kiganjo.
Correct.
And the Police Leadership Center in Bulbul. We go, they give us sessions to teach the leadership.
For which you have been. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so ukae kidogo chai, tugonge, tuone kule tutapeleka mbele. Okay, now that they say it is not English, but at that juncture, to invite the CEO, our team lead, Bwana David Omoro, CEO Media Council of Kenya, yes, to meet with the attention, plus as we mentioned, I'll give you this mobile so that his speech will be a practical presentation of the status of the media report in a summarized manner. but we will then later share all of the report we are launching today. So who is consuming which media, where, the billing station, the billing radio station, and the rest. So that just go next. So colleagues, that's where we are, but a lot of things, again, those of you who read, and you must read, obviously, SDG number 16A talks about all of media, peace, and the rest, the topic at hand, SDG 16A. Please get time and refer to it. You will get more info about it.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, Victor, and welcome. Mmekuwa wengi sana. Mmekuwa wapishi wengi. So, Chief Justice Livenow, Madam Dean, our host, Chair of the Council and the Council members, Chair Complaints Commission, Madam President, Chair Messi on behalf of the PS and Moshiri, spokesman. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jambo. I want to dive right into the report. I don't know what you think, sir.
Just hold on.
So that we look at. So I will give you just 10 or so slides from the State of the Media Report 2025. It is one of the constitutional mandates we are required to do by law. We are supposed to carry out a survey and publicize the public confidence in the media in Kenya. So we did this survey 15 to 23rd in April. We had 3,074 applicants. We went through the whole country. We used the computer-assisted interview. I say this because it's a requirement in ethical reporting of surveys to provide this information when you talk about how to report opinion polls and surveys. And finally is that the entire process was financed by the MCK internal funds. Those who here in social science research say that it is a requirement to report who financed and the purpose for which. So we did this as a constitutional requirement, and that's what we did. I would like to state that there is a lot more data that is available for people, those who want to know which media house to work for and all that. There is more. So what I'm going to give you are just the highlights. We spoke to people who are 54% who are under 35 years, more than 52% have at least a diploma qualification, 76% work on a 30K, and the gender was about 55-45. Na tulikuwa na wale watu wa informal economy, wanaitwa hustlers, 49%. So tukusumbuwa na degree peke yake, spoke to that. How do Kenyans consume media? Social media. And I want to clarify that when you see we have the red and the blue, I think blue is for 2024, red is 2025. We have social media at the lowest, social media as the highest, and the print at the lowest. Radio and television remain hapo katikati, then we have online and news. So social media has overtaken TV as the primary source of news at 27%, TV got 25%, and radio 19%. What you will notice has been the shift. Newspaper consumption has fallen. We were at around 17% last year, we are now down to 13%. So 13% of the people doing have gone down. Online news has increased marginally, but it's usually a very thin line between social media and online news, isn't it? So if you cumulate, you look at the social media, of almost 35%, and then the online news, you realize that the numbers are going up, and TV and radio hold there. The factors of this TV and radio, you know that when someone on a last mile connectivity, digital headsets, consuming radio and TV online, and access to set-top boxes. Attention. We have 57% of people who watch TV. The numbers have fallen. We used to have 63%. So 6% people no longer watch TV, but I believe they watch something on their phone. 73% of those people watch during prime time, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The people who watch radio, the majority of them are 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. That tells you that then TV, what you wanna watch after, after the day and you're at home relaxing, isn't it? And radio, people listen to it on their way to work, part of Kogari, Komatatu. I am told that gari za kutoka Buru na Kilimani, Pidu, Maina and Kinangi in the morning, but gari za kutoka Kawangware na Kangemi, they listen to Gidi and Ghost Patinisha. Still radio. Anyway, in TV, we still have a very, very wide margin between number 1 and number 2, with 50% of the daily viewers of TV going to Citizen TV. You'll see that that is such a huge margin because the next one is 8%. And then we have 7% on KTN, Inoro, TV 47, and the others. There is a very huge margin between this. For the record is that this data, Msijali Sana, is available for free to journalists and media houses and all that. And what I'm giving is less than 2% of the data. We had a little, very deep information, the classifications, which regions, which numbers and all that. So those who want, you'll be told how to access it. This and a little more data for people doing media planning and all that. For free, because it is paid by taxpayer budget. In radio, we still have a Radio Citizen topping, but luckily now already we have then Radio Maisha and others coming up immediately thereafter. We do not have such a wide margin in radio. And then you will notice something, I know we will explain later, that English speaking, Kiss FM and Classic, that is a Radio Africa group, isn't it? In target radio data, you'll find that radio is primarily Swahili, and then people do Citizen, Radio Jambo, Radio Maisha. So the people who listen to Classic and Kiss are minority. Minority in the name of a national sample. But if you do now the living standards and level of literacies and all that, you will find that we will have another slide available for this presentation when you classify and say the people who are rural, peri-urban, learned, the working class and all that, you will notice now the spikes where Classic 105 and Kiss is leading. But when you do a national sample from all the counties, then you realize then we go back to the default of Tuko Patanisho, Tuko Radio Citizen and all that. So this info for those, and I know we are in a hallowed institution of learning, those who know is that when you now break down the data for what you want, the living standards, the Lower Eastern, the Nairobi and all that, you'll be able to see what radio. You'll be surprised that the radio that tops countrywide is not among the top in Nairobi, because it's a very small audience, wale watu wa Kilimani na Burusi wengi. But then the overall, if you combine everybody else, they are made. I need to mention something on TV, important before I forget. I am scrolling back. We noticed a spike that TV, apart from news, sasa soko parasi popular tena. People do news and sports. You see Maisha Magic, you see K24, but if you go down to the coast, it's not here, you will see it. We have Azam TV, a TV based out of the country, which is really, really gone up. You know what Azam TV does, isn't it? Bongo music, sports, and betting. It seems to be leading at the coast, I think. I think we saw that it's going up at the coast. So, apart from Bongo and all that, there's therefore a spike in betting. So this slide is not here, but it's available for those who want to get the data for processing, for academic purposes, and those who want to go to do their planning. It's because for the first time, normally we have had, I think KTN News was fairly popular in Uganda, and Citizen TV was fairly popular in TZ. I think it was the number 2 overall. Now we're getting a Tanzanian TV station, all right, taking care of leading in an entire region of the country. The newspapers are not doing well. We are noticing a decline from 29% of Kenyans who are reading newspapers in 2024 to 13%. So people have moved. And most read newspaper is the Daily Nation. And most of these guys read the digital version. So what we kununua gazeti, not that many. We have no slide here, maybe it will come next, where we'll show the ranking of the online platforms. And I will explain what we found out, what happens. Now, we found that while Nation leads, followed by online, Nation Africa, Tuko, Citizen, KBC, and all that, people who visit the website, there is still a lot of room for improvement because we have other now emerging content creators, where you find that the category of others is almost 30%, because there is a 5%, 2%, and all that. The independent content creators is a very big emerging space. You have heard us speak before about it, the need to start to license and accredit independent content producers as legitimate media platforms. If the guys taking lead are bound by the ethical code of conduct. There has been major attrition of professionals from newsrooms, and many of them are coming together and producing content, professional media content. We don't think that we should now not recognize them because they are not based on a TV or radio we know. If they come together, it's a bunch of people we know, professionals, and now they either do their work on podcast or YouTube or whatever. We think that they should be recognized and all that. We do not just want to recognize people who do this on a radio or TV we know. We have 74% of Kenyans who use digital media. Remember, juxtapose that against 13 who read newspaper. So it's not about what, basically we have them all there. Now the challenge is where they go. WhatsApp. These WhatsApp groups and forwards and WhatsApp, forwards. And also it has become a major platform for circulation, isn't it? Forwarding news and all that and all that. I think even the link for today's event has been shared to people on WhatsApp. I've seen even the free colleagues from Rwanda asking now to book WhatsApp and all that. Then of course after that now they will click and go to YouTube and whatever. Facebook comes there. The third one, you notice TikTok. It was 14% last year, and Facebook was 20%. Now TikTok is at 15% and Facebook is at 18%. So really the competition is tight, so that we have WhatsApp is 20, 18, 15. Then of course, YouTube, Instagram, Messenger, na Telegram. Telegram ndio wanasema they are sharing confidential information, haiwezi kuhakiwa, lakini mnajidanganya tu. Not telling that. Question: do Kenyans think media covers government fairly? Last year, 74% of Kenyans thought that the media covers government unfairly. 26% wakasema tunaona media is doing a good job. This year Kenya wanasema hapana. 54% of Kenyans think the media is doing a good job. And those who think the media is being unfair to government has dropped from 74% to 46%, isn't it? Yes, those who want to, it's really a 27% swing confidence. So, sometimes it's very hard to define government when you look at this. Took on a police, took on a judiciary, took on a ministry. Because government is in different arms, isn't it? Most important is that 27% more Kenyans now think that the media is doing a fair job from last year. That's a very important note, 27% more. So that's a public trust of down from 26% last year to 54. I think maybe by the time last year we were doing this survey, there had been a lot of narratives about media here, wapendi serikali and all that, isn't it? I think naturally Kenyans have learned to say, hey, maybe you can trust the media and all that. So there's a very good confidence. Public trust in the media, overall. Remember what I've replied is about how Kenyans think the media is covering government, isn't it? Now, 79% Kenyans think the media is doing a good job. They trust the media. It was 74.5% last year. So journalists, Kenyans are comfortable with what you're doing. They believe that you're doing a good job. That is an increase of 5%. I want to insist here that this is the question that the Media Council Act requires that we carry out and publicize Kenyans' perception of the media. 79% think that the media is doing a good job, and the numbers have gone up from last year. I think for that reason, see what Victor, journalists can take tea for free and you pay. No. Chairman, what concerns Kenyans most about media work? Disinformation and inadequate coverage of key issues. Sometimes I think that we stick too much in politics and forget to cover matters, education, health, agriculture, and all that. Bias in reporting and too many adverts. Najua Kenya ni kwamba we need adverts to pay for electricity and salaries. Tunataka kama ni kipindi wana watch usiweke adverts katikati, kama ni news watch it now. So there are certain things that they have to do for this. So we can realize that apart from a bit of disinformation and inadequate coverage, that is several good. They are concerned about gambling, and they think that overall freedom of expression concerns the media freedom. AI. 59% of Kenyans are aware when AI is being used in the media. Only 41% wanatambua sana. 63% hawezi kujua kama AI ama ni typesetting and all that. But 61 AI in the media. So what are the takeaways? Digital is the new data. Television has its grip shaken a bit. Kenyans, the perception of credibility in media has improved, and the print is in terminal decline. Food for thought. So I want to say again that there is so much there. The survey had so much that we've further breakdowns and all that, and especially the partners institutions and all that, who will be given access even to the road itself. But that is, ladies and gentlemen, that is the state of Kenyan media. Asante sana. I am told that I have a new appointment with the MC now to invite the next three people. The chairman be the Complaints Commission, Bonadimas, and then I appoint you MC to appoint the chairman of the Media Council, and then the chair of the Media Council will invite one attorney on behalf of the peers, the chief. So, everybody is done and we are the MC.
Thank you so much to see you. The print is almost coming on. I'm worried because most of our cases are from print. Chairperson, Media Council. Today, as Maba, I want to celebrate right. But the health of the ecosystem and that supports. At the Media Commission, we take pride in being a friendly forum for dispute resolution. We are not opposition. We are a table where dialogue against situation, where apologies and corrections matter. That spirit of collaboration is our greatest strength. Yet we are an interesting church, more and more, corporate cases before us, seeking remedies for what they see as a fair country. That is their right, not one. That's answered. It suggests to the preference to viewers the situation of what was here. I invite you as you've seen the presentation, the speed, the algorithms, investigative reporting till no problems till lines communities, and the total however till finds its light. The guidelines have done something that not authenticity and more justice. So that was the position here because the judicial have been very good in the terms of protecting press. Give us structure. Still the judiciary that removed criminal information, which was really affected to press freedom. And it's the judiciary also removed the misuse of license communication process. I happen to have participated all those cases. And Judge Raola, we are coming to the Supreme Court. And the cyber cases. But yes, press freedom is really the oxygen of our democracy, and we must protect its journalists. Thank you very much. I take the opportunity to invite the chairperson of the media platform.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Allow me to extend my apologies. Grateful that starting with our host, Dr. Magdalene Mbamba, another host, Dr. Antagas, my colleagues in both Indian Council, Enoch Monana, Team Wanoni, will be last. The many people who are in academia and then train, because the future now is, if you see the theme today, the future lies you people. Not giving us the next problem. I'll tell you how I mentioned it. And the I recognize, especially and the young who are you have the teachers. And now the big table, what I'm going to do, who is also a member of the council, CEO, chair, conference. The only president, unlike the chair, I'm starting with an written part when I'm finishing with the because I want to go to it. When I was a reporter, taught us a very good lesson. When I met him today, it's what I remember. I remember that. He taught us law and start. When you mention freedom, the veterans are the veterans. The young stars how much must be together with president. 1991, multi-party time. As I important, very young, we used to be sent to cover people who cannot even appear in public because they will be arrested. So it's called for conferences and they ran to Cheshire. That's Matiba and Elvia. After you take the notes, as they leave, special camera takes your notes. You go back and use the notes. Photographers, the cameraman are not digital. You find better camera. This is that. Better camera. You go back and use anything. And the editor have to rely on the members. What the particular thing? You remember. And they did not publish it. Because the day they formed Ford, 7 of them. Ford was not legal. But Kenya Constitution, they discovered a clause where you can form a party of 7 without registering. So much people read the statement. You have formed a party and you don't need to register. It was not a party, it was a fair. So we went back to the newsroom. Then instead of accepting a story, there were no mobile phones. Before the nation the following day, after Ford was launched, there was one before the newspaper. That was now. No one mentioned it. It took 2 days. How we made it appear in the newspaper to wait for a guy and just said, media now asked you, this is not a party. What do you say? I'm not only that. And now the newspaper is already in election. This is the call them this. Even in your story, you write and call them this. More goes to the ASA show. Ford, the company, has a huge tractor called Ford Ferguson. Moy is standing here. And then the one Ford here, he's not shooting. So, President now in a so the veterans have mentioned will tell you come from far. My point is, the future is here. Media freedom is progressive. We are progressive. And it's necessary to progress. You wouldn't want to go back there. Indeed, Kenya things had never go back to the and things were tough. You used to look at stories and they still appear. And sometimes people are arrested. I have to read without respect because I was laughing. It is my honor to join you today as they commemorate the Award of Freedom, a day set aside globally to reflect on the vital role of free, independent, and responsible society. That's what we like. These years have been shaping a future act. That's what we yearn for. Even those days, we yearn for that, and I think we are heading there. This could not be more timely. It is a powerful reminder that peace is not simply the absence of war or conflict. It is the active, daily presence of truth, accountability, and informed public discourse. Values that only a vibrant and fiercely professional media can sustain and defend. A free press is the lifeblood of any democratic society. It arms citizens with the information they need to make meaningful decisions, amplifies voices that would otherwise not heard, and holds institutions to account. Journalists are not merely truth-tellers. They are custodians of truth and indispensable actors in building a stable, cohesive, and inclusive society. Ladies and gentlemen, the Media Council of Kenya remains steadfast in its mandate, anchored firmly in the Media Council Act, to promote and protect media freedom while upholding the highest standards of professionalism. Through the Code of Conduct for Media Practice, which was, as you all know, was revised the other day, expanded even rather, we guide journalists in the pursuit of accuracy, fairness, and ethical reporting. Because responsible journalism is not optional. It is the foundation upon which public trust is built. Responsible journalism prevents conflict, counters misinformation, and fosters national unity. This is especially critical during periods of heightened national significance, such as the election to which we are moving next year, and public crisis, when the risk of inflammatory and illicit reporting is at its peak. Our work is to ensure the media informs without inciting and builds rather than dividing. The safety and protection of journalists is and will remain a top priority for this country. A peaceful media environment cannot exist where journalists operate under the shadow of fear, intimidation, or threat. We have put in place robust safety measures, rapid response interventions, and strengthened collaboration with security agencies and media stakeholders to ensure every journalist can do their work without fear. Yet the situation on the ground demands our urgent attention. During this period, the Council has documented 12 press freedom violations across the country, ranging from threats and harassment outside physical attacks. More troubling are disturbing new patterns in which politicians deploy hired individuals, it has become a common knowledge now, to intimidate and silence journalists. This is unacceptable and we condemn it and unravel. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers tell sobering truth. In the past year alone, the Council verified 2 cases of press freedom violations. With the general election scheduled for August 2027, we anticipate that the number will rise. This paints a grim picture of the fragile and increasingly unsafe environment in which Kenyan journalists carry out their duties. Equally alarming is the situation facing women journalists. A study commissioned by the Association of Media Women in Kenya, and I recognize the Queen Tambori, I've seen her here, found that 64.8% of women journalists have experienced safety or security breaches in the course of their work. I will finish the last paragraph now with respect to the wife against the chair. And really have my choice. To strengthen our media landscape, investing the liberty in capacity building through targeted information and environment and self-survey and peaceful media ecosystem. The Media Complaints Commission, while protecting editorial independence of our regulatory framework. The rapid spread of misinformation, online harassment. Council is actively engaging public awareness campaigns alone. Today, I call upon every stakeholder in this room and communities. Let us reject without equivocation all forms champion a media that is ethical, professional, and never lose sight of this. The future of peace, stability that we all seek depends on, in no small measure, the strength. Now, my singular
justice of our media associations and institutions, our host, this very beautiful university. This is my second time at Daystar. No, sorry, Strathmore. The reason is because when we came to this city, start something close to numbers. But for those of us who are not gifted in that area, and there were also very interesting stories that we needed a suit to come in, all those stories we used to read. But I'm glad that now they're also even offering. So the other time I came, University of Nairobi student, and I was in a suit. So I'm glad that I'm back to this great institution. Not take the risk of my chair. I will read the speech as given to me by my leaders. And first I must bring greetings from the leadership of the led by His Excellency Kabogo, our minister, and my PS, Bwana Stephen Isaboke, who is an industry insider. I will also, after I read the speech, I will also tell you a few things because I'm your desk officer at the ministry. So I'm your lead technical officer for the sector. So the things that the policy leaders may miss, I will also share with you because such fora are very good for public accountability. So I'll read the speech for my principal secretary, Bwana Stephen Isaboke. So I'm glad to join you as we commemorate World Press Freedom Day 2026. We gather under a theme that is both contemporary and urgent, shaping a future at peace. In this information age, where our society is filled with information overload, a free and independent press has evolved, and it's no longer merely a democratic luxury. It is our first line of defense against the erosion of public trust. Data supports this position. The 2025 Meltwater Report ranks Kenya for concern of prevalence of fake news. While our made up of over 250 active radio stations and a digital in the sector that demands a coordinated strategic response from all of us in the sector. In the artificial intelligence era, and we must properly align the ministry through the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy. The government has established a comprehensive framework to guide the country on. As a ministry, we are overseeing the review of several laws to align with the realities of the sector. First, we are reviewing the KICA Act, the mother law, the Kenya Information and Communications Act. It's being reviewed. It's actually a major overhaul. It is both the Act and its 16 regulations. So as a sector, we need to be engaged with that process. Number two, we are also reviewing the Media Council Act. As you are aware, there have been conflicts between different laws, and one of them that have been identified by the courts for review is the Media Council Act, and that process is ongoing. So as a sector, we also need to be properly engaged. At the same time, we are finalizing the access to information policy, which is long overdue, which is actually a constitutional requirement. The government communication policy, for the longest time, we've never had a coordinated government communication policy, which is now at cabinet. We are also working with the support of the Public Relations Society. We are finalizing the Public Relations and Communication Management Bill. This law will define who is a communication professional. At the same time, we are also accelerating the National Addressing System of Kenya system, which will unlock e-commerce, among other opportunities. In respect of the press as a vital ecosystem, our focus is centered on ensuring that as the media ecosystem evolves, new technologies serve to protect rather than undermine. As an integrated approach across three core pillars. First is regarding AI-driven integrity. As a government, we are deploying detection capabilities to identify generative, synthetic, and manipulated content that targets media practitioners. Number two, to support media viability, we recognize that as advertising revenues shift with an estimated 64% of spend moving to digital by 2029, we must work together to rebuild sustainable business models for journalism. Number three, we are committed to digital sovereignty. ensuring that as our nation transitions from consumers to creators, our local narratives, indigenous languages are actively protected from automated propaganda. The viability of a modern media economy is intrinsically linked to robust connectivity. The superhighway pillar of the government's data plan is provided flaws. Alongside this, we are deploying 1,000 across the country to scale digital skilling for public communication, complemented by 25,000 free public Wi-Fi hotspots to ensure that information access remains a fundamental right rather than a privilege. As we approach the 2027 general election, the integrity of our information ecosystem will inevitably be tested by the weaponization of social media platforms and deepfakes. Our strategic choice moving forward is whether we merely seek to regulate, remove, or entirely rebuild our approach to digital discourse. Our responsibility stands to steward the adoption of new technologies with foresight, ensuring regulation keeps pace with innovation while building secure, transparent ecosystems. By balancing proactive oversight with infrastructure investment, we can foster a trusted digital space that protects democratic values and serves the public interest. Going forward, the future of journalism lies in responsible enablement, not restriction. Kenya is ready to lead the region in shaping media governance that unlocks value for our people while safeguarding editorial independence. We look forward to today's deliberation to a robust World Press Freedom Day 2026 Media Sector Declaration. We expect this gathering to articulate specific measurable commitments across journalist safety, media viability, digital governance, and the protection of editorial independence. Declarations carry worth and accompanied by clear mechanisms for implementation and accountability. And this ministry stands ready to be held to account under the framework agreed upon today. Let us rise collectively to the challenge of shaping a future anchored on truth and accountability. That is my message from PS Stephen Isaboke. Having read that, and as government protocol demands, I will now say one or two things of what we are doing at the ministry to make sure that the sector remains as vibrant as it is. I must first of all start by saying so many people, especially during this transition, there are things we are getting right as a sector that, as I have checked, I think we should be ready to showcase some of these things we are getting right. And I must congratulate media councils that are contributing to our media sustainability landscape. So, sector remains vibrant. And one of the things around is how do we remains the vanguard of our democracy and remains an important employer. People rent to media for employment. So we need to really work around it and make sure that it remains sustainable. And all those things that we're doing to make sure that journalists, young people continue to earn a living from their trade is what we are keen on. The other thing, just in a moment, I'll tell you, unlike law journalists leaving the newsroom, and we support. And one of the things we are thinking about as a ministry is how do we then have support for media veterans. These are highly informed, highly opinionated people who can contribute to setting national agenda, but they're all over the place. Luckily, some of them are organized through associations, so as a ministry and as a sector, we need to think about how to support our media veterans. And my chairman mentioned some of them who are in the room, and we think they still have opportunity to share nation. The other conversation around media sustainability is monetization of journalistic content. I think the focus has been monetization of content developed by young people for platforms. But you know, a lot of this content rides and advertising rights on journalistic content. So a media house does professional content, and then the big tech rides on it to push adverts, but then they are not compensated for that content. So that's a conversation we're having with big tech, and it's a conversation that even the president himself has proclaimed his ministry to lead. As information secretary, I also lead, I think, the largest remaining media house in Kenya, which is the Kenya News Agency. We have remained put in the 47 counties. Reform KNA to, fit into so that it remains the backbone for government to be able to tell Kenya's development story. Over time, I think politics is the easiest to carry, so media houses would cover politics and leave development. People is KNA. And with the folding up of bureaus, and we are seeing an increase in the uptake of KNA content, especially the development story. So I think for us, we are keen on strengthening KNA so that it's a platform for media to continue getting Kenya's development story. So with those very many remarks, I want to take this opportunity now to invite our chief guest, who's served our country very well, Justice Livenow. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Temesi. Good morning, everyone. Let me thank the Media Council and recognize and appreciate all of you for turning out for this very important celebration. A future of peace is not abstract to us, is not abstract to me. And just now when I think it was the chairman who said that Zubeida is only president, I shouted loudly, I'm also a president. And my presidency is obviously not that of the president of Kenya or the president of Strathmore or the president of the Editors Guild. I am, as some of you may know, the president of the Special Residual Court for Sierra Leone. And that position also speaks to the theme for today. The Special Court for Sierra Leone, which is the predecessor of the Residual Special Court, was created to try those who bore the highest responsibility in the Sierra Leone crisis of the 1990s. And after that court wound up its work, having convicted a number of high-profile convicts, including now as the president of the Residual Special Court, my highest responsibility belongs to the incarceration of former president of Liberia, Charles Taylor, who you know is now a convict in the UK. I also have in the Special Court a number of Sierra Leoneans who are convicted and are serving their sentences in Rwanda. So this message of peace, which we are preaching today, speaks to the sort of story we must continue reminding ourselves about. Sierra Leone was, like ourselves, a British colony. Sierra Leone was a very progressive country with a lot of minerals. Dam was inclusive. And today, they are struggling to regain the peace they lost when the war started in the 1990s. So this theme speaks to both the work I do in Sierra Leone and the work I do here, as I shall shortly show. We, as a judiciary, and you, as a media, must continue this conversation, because the choices we make as ourselves, as a country, must continue to ensure that the proverbial Wanjiko is safe in the country of their birth. And so you, like us, are an important voice in shaping a future that is laden with peace for the benefit of the people of Kenya. A lot of you may know that I was involved in the writing of the 2010 Constitution as a commissioner and member of the Constitution Review Commission of Kenya. And as we drafted that Constitution, which you rejected in the 2006 referendum, but accepted in a different format in the 2010 referendum, you told us and you told yourselves as the people of Kenya, that document must continue to guide us. And if you look at the preamble of that constitution, it speaks. But as Kenyans, we must also be honest ourselves. Except the fact that we continue to navigate very difficult periods as we approach a general election, where public discourse increasingly tense, Gunism is becoming the and where political competition is sometimes expressed in ways that truly test the unity of the great republic. Therefore, against that background, and noting the issues that my colleagues have spoken about, including technological advancement, then the question of unregulated social media space must continue to shape our conversations for the future. And I think the statistics, numbers don't lie. The 74% of us now use social media to receive information tells that we must now focus on that percentage, on that group, to ensure that the news we receive is not pedestrian, is not flippant, it is the truth expressed by whatever means. And therefore, you know that Kenya is a very vibrant country. You just need to go to the social media platforms and you will see what I'm talking about. But we're also a country that is very easy to get polarized. Our tribalism remains our biggest problem, corruption being the next. But in terms of information, we know that information moves extremely fast. So does misinformation. So that even as we send the truth, the half-truth, the non-truth is moving as fast as the truth. And it's becoming very difficult, especially for our youth, to know where the truth lies. And therefore, as we discuss, as we celebrate this important day, how we respond to the moment today, how we respond to the Kenya we have today, not just about politics, but our future stability must be at the back of our minds. Political intolerance remains one of our most pressing concerns and must remain so. We are seeing a worrying trend where disagreement is no longer just a disagreement about issues, about facts, about policies, about psychology, about philosophy, about religion, but we are seeing total hostility. I was in Washington, D.C. the other week, and what surprised me is that our tribalism, which was brewed and bred in Kenya, has been exported loudly to the diaspora, to the extent that even the cities where we live in, the estates where we live in abroad are totally tribal enclaves, and social media platforms are not any different from the ones we have here. Masomo ya kwenda ngambo ilikuwa ya nini? Kama bado ukabila unazidi kutusumbua katika hata nchi za ngambo. When intolerance grows, it weakens our ability to resolve differences peacefully. It creates an environment where suspicion replaces trust, and that is a dangerous path for any democracy, especially a fragile democracy such as ours. And therefore, we must continue to ask ourselves the question, what is your responsibility socially, economically, and politically as the media? And in a climate such as this one, you are not bystanders, neither are we in the judiciary. You are the center of how the nation understands itself. You are the epicenter, you are the heartbeat, and therefore you play a very important role in our society. And while saying so, I must commend you. Look at the statistics which Bwana Omoyo projected on the screen. I cannot speak about the same statistics for my institutions. So while you are growing in terms of public trust, we are either stagnating or moving backwards, which means we have a bigger problem than you have. But even as you do that, as you set the agenda, as you sometimes gatekeep, as you entertain us many times, you have a bigger role to serve this country. And therefore, your responsibility to peace is exceedingly important. Every headline, every breaking news alert, every panel discussion contributes to shaping the public perception. And therefore, you have the ability to de-escalate tension simply by how you frame an issue. Sometimes there's a risk that how you project news, how you sell your news, division is amplified even if you never intended to do so. And therefore, that is why accuracy is not enough. Balance is not enough. Context must matter. Tone must matter. Timing must matter. Language is important, and your audience must matter. And in moments of political tension, restraint on your part, restraint on our part, is not weakness. It is wisdom. And I was telling my colleagues at TIB this morning that in 2007, and some of you were there, at least the older and the veterans were there, and I was not surprised to see the number of young journalists who will be covering an election for the first time in their life. By 2027, the 2007-2008 crisis would have been 20 years away. Some of your journalists are 21 years old, 23 years old, 24 years old. They were babies when tribal post-election violence occurred. They don't know anything about it. And therefore, it is important for us to teach them restraint, to teach them the language they must use not to escalate tensions, because certainly seeing the examples of today, the tensions are escalating towards 2027. But this does not mean, and I submit to you, that reporting in difficult times and difficult stories, you must soften the truth or bend the truth. You must present the truth in a way that informs the public, informs Wanjiko without inflaming. A truth that questions without provoking unnecessary hostility. And a truth that must continue to hold a power to account without deepening divisions among citizens. This morning at 4 a.m., I read Chacha Mwita's article in the Standard where he spoke to this point, that you must speak the bare truth to us in authority, but you must also ensure it does not inflame tensions. And so as we approach the 2027 election cycle, this responsibility becomes even more critical, because elections must and should remain moments of choice, not moments of fear. If you notice the fear being expressed quietly, loudly on social media platforms about 2027, how do you, as the media, ensure that these fears are toned down so the public can go to the election with clear minds about the choices they're going to make? A lot of you know, and I had this spoken by Mr. Itemesi, we as a judiciary have developed an AI policy. We are now going to develop AI guidelines. We are trying to align ours with the national AI policy and the AI strategy, which Itemesi has spoken about. But it must be alive to the reality of the moment. Deepfakes, misinformation, disinformation are with us. And a few, I think it was during when I launched the ZTech Law School 2 months ago, I spoke about the disenfranchisement of certain populations by fact of deep and fake news. It is very easy to decide as an MP that because where Joe Kilonzo, my friend from the judiciary, lives, you flood that area with misinformation and deep fakes. So those people don't vote because they won't vote for you anyway. So instead of them voting, let them not vote at all. And then you can get your areas to vote for you. These are realities that you, on the media side, and we as judges must face. And I keep saying that we have now developed, as African judiciaries, an AI policy and strategy where we shall teach our judges how to anticipate evidence based on AI and fake news. Because we must prepare ourselves for these eventualities which are a reality today. And therefore, a free press is not negotiable in a democratic society. And you journalists must be allowed to do your work without intimidation, interference, or fear. And thank you, Media Council, for the work that you do. And thank you, Dimas, for the work that your commission does. Any attempt to undermine media freedom ultimately undermines democracy itself. But this responsibility is no longer just a responsibility that is reposited in the state. It is not a Serikali Saidia thing. It is a duty that we all must embrace as actors in shaping the future of our nation. And specifically for us in the judiciary, our role is known. We are mandated, we are demanded of to interpret and apply the law and to protect the Constitution. We are often called to make very difficult decisions at moments of high national tensions, especially post-election. And of course, you know I'm a serious authority on that subject, because every 5 years my life takes a turn. And had I been PLO Lumumba, and I'm not, I would have said I can now speak on that subject ex cathedra. But our duty as a judiciary must remain to be impartial, steady, and guided solely by the facts as presented and the law applicable to those facts. In doing so, we contribute not just to justice, but to the stability of our nation. As you know, I've sat in three election petitions post the presidential election. And you know the tension for those 2 weeks that we are hibernating somewhere and listening to the case, and the whole world is watching us. It is our duty in such moments to ensure that our decisions speak to the soul of the nation and that the nation remains stable despite the difficulty of the decisions that we make. And therefore, when disputes are resolved through lawful processes, the likelihood of conflict is significantly reduced. If you all remember, 2007 partly happened because the late Raila Odinga said, "I do not trust the Kibaki courts." And that statement was enough for no one to come to court to challenge that contested election. I'm happy that today, all elections that are contested are coming to court, and I can speak again ex cathedra and say they are resolved at the highest level of integrity, impartiality, and totally under the Constitution of our great republic. But speaking as a judge to largely you members of the media, I've never liked the expression for the state. You are the media, very highly regarded and very respected. We fear you sometimes. We must speak a language of collaboration. Dr. Joan Mutua has just been appointed Communication Advisor to the Office of Chief Justice. I chair the Communication Committee of the Judiciary. I am the patron of the Kenya Court Reporters Association. So already by those positions, we have a collaborative approach towards the media. But I think we need to do something more. Very soon we're going to have, President Zubeida has left, we're going to have a breakfast with editors. So we shape our language, we shape our appreciation of the coming days towards, obviously, a very contested election. But for us to do so, we must have certain values, certain conversations. The first is that we must continuously try to understand and strengthen how the public understands judicial processes. We know that court decisions, especially in politically sensitive cases, can be very complex. If you recall the BBI case at the Supreme Court, we each wrote an individual judgment, and ultimately the judgment was 1,032 pages. Even if you are Zao ya Musao, and you are a lawyer and a journalist, 1,000 pages of legalese can be very difficult. And that is why we have taken the view, at least at the Supreme Court, and already at a meeting we had in Mombasa 2 weeks ago, we're going to escalate this to all the courts. We must have media summaries released after every sensitive and difficult case. Media summaries are easy. They summarize the case in a language that everyone understands. And then when you report, you don't report out of ignorance. And therefore, accuracy will save us from the confusion that sometimes I see. I think we must, as a nation also, and between ourselves and ourselves, we must continue to build trust. Fair and responsible reporting reinforces public confidence, not just in you, the reporters, but also us in the justice system. And I'm happy that you're improving in terms of how the public views you as the media. And third, and I mentioned this in passing a moment ago, we must create space for structured and ongoing dialogue. We don't need to do this only when we are approaching an election, or when there's a crisis. We can do this often so that the tension that sometimes I see between the judiciary and the media can be de-escalated before they break into some of the headlines that I see. Just about 2 weeks ago, there was a huge headline in one of your dailies. The picture of the Chief Justice was projected there, and the only word on the headline was biased. When we read the story on page 4, not one mention was made of the Chief Justice by name, by conduct, or misconduct. Yet the headline was that screaming headline about the Chief Justice of the Republic being biased. Let us be careful. Let us create structures for us to discuss. When you have concerns around issues affecting institutions like the judiciary or parliament or the ministry, or you have problems accessing information, do speak with us. A lot of the media houses at least have my number, and I've never changed my number since I've entered the market. So if there are difficulties, you have Joanne's number. She's a member of your Wamboi's number at the Directorate of. Instead of inflaming tensions that are already latent. All this that we do to protect both your integrity and ours, and also the integrity of our nation. And like I said, we must collaborate and discuss and continue engaging in confronting misinformation. Both nations share a responsibility to ensure that what reaches the public is accurate, timely, and contextualized. And I think it's important for us to use the resources, and thank you, Dean, for being here. Let us use these resources of this university and other universities, and thank you, Dr. Akivaga, because if we have that conversation, you can call us. I've spoken on this podium countless times on countless subjects. Why can't we come here and discuss misinformation, full stop, and get solutions? Because that is how we can work together. And because we are now going again to a period that we all of us know we must speak about, this collaboration becomes more urgent, and you must ensure, as the media, that your responsibility to report is fair, even as we do what we must do. Let me conclude with a message, which is to the theme of this World Press Freedom Day. A collective duty to shape peace. The state of this nation is defined not only by our challenges, but by how we respond to them. Peace is not automatic. Peace is built. Peace is strongly calculated through everyday decisions, through responsible leadership at every level, through institutions that act with integrity, yours and mine. Peace is indeed a necessity for everyone. And I said about my experiences in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, when I went to be sworn in at State House, Sierra Leone in 2011, I was very surprised when I was shown the victims of the war in Sierra Leone. Those who were cut at this point, they are called long-sleeved. Those who are cut at this point are called short-sleeved. And those who are cut at the ankle are called long trousers. And those who are cut at the knee are called short trousers. We have a responsibility as a country never to go there. Never to go back to 2007. That's why I'm saying peace is a necessity for all of us. While the judiciary, I submit and promise, will continue to do its part, I promise we must continue to uphold the Constitution, protect your rights and the rights of those who do not have representation. I promise that we must resolve disputes fairly and without bias. You too must promise to report fairly and without bias. But peace in Kenya will not come only from yourselves and ourselves. Peace is a collective responsibility of all Kenyans, of all walks of life. It must come from all of us. And you and I are not observers in Kenya's history. You are participants in how, what, when, and why that story is told. And that is the role that God has given you and which you have chosen for yourselves, as I chose to be a lawyer and a judge. Use that influence wisely. Use it responsibly. Use it to inform, to clarify, to unite where you can, and to challenge where necessary. But always with a consciousness of the impact and social responsibility your work has on this great nation, as my work has. If we work together as the media, as the judiciary, as the academia, we can shape a Kenya where freedom and peace must go hand in hand. And we shall shape a future where peace is certainly our portion. If I have not made my point, blame Joan Mutua, who guides me in matters of communication. If I've made a good point, thank me very much. I thank you for your audience.
Thank you. Another round of applause, please. And that's wonderful, that's powerful. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to stand, not the guests, not our guests to stand up, because we are transitioning into a panel discussion as they walk out, and I need you to be active. So kindly stand up as I allow Dr. Akidiva to express the vote of thanks to our guests.
Thank you very much for this very important setting of the tone. We are grateful. We are grateful to the chief guest, especially with that passing, shot about collective responsibility, collaboration. And what I take from what you've said is that peace is a national prerequisite, nationhood. Thank you very much. Thank you, the CEO, the chairman of the Media Council. I really enjoyed what you're saying because I lived through those moments when you're talking about issues about freedom. Thank you, CEO, for the collaboration and bringing this to Strathmore to help us understand what the issues are. Our Dean, thank you very much for coming and talking about our program and what it is that we are doing, and especially the core values that we espouse as Strathmore University. The President, thank you very much for your remarks. We also thank Dimas for their reassurance that you are there for all of us. Maina Mushiri, that's the chairman. And then, I was looking for the other Mushiri, Michael Mushiri. Thank you very much for, again, the reassurances about the police and how we're working together. So, even for ourselves, being here and being attentive, we are thankful, grateful for your attention and being here. We've been told that there will be a photo session, and then we are going to get into a slide, another panel discussion. Oh,
yes, the photo session is for the guests. You can remain seated. Thank you so much. Sami Moraya, please come and take it out. Please feel free to walk to the entrance. Thank you so much, Dr.
What are the biggest
Alafu hii sisi yako inaweza chukua 1 hour.
Naweza ikata.
Hebu kate. Hata tafadhali uite mtu hapa kuja ongea. Make remarks zake ya kustaga.
Nafikiria.
I did that.
Give everyone like 2 minutes.
We didn't have a chance today. Madam wetu wakakuja leo. Maureen amekaa pale na anataka kuonyesha wale tu.
So as we allow our main guests to go for the photo session, let me just bring you guys. Hello. Nzawe Amusao, I know you've been mentioned by the justice. That does not allow you to start conversations on the corridor. So I just want to bring the session to order. Kindly, you can allow me.
I think about 54%, which shows the shift, the power shift really from legacy to online and digital and all that. And of course that comes with a lot of challenges. It's actually more of an explosion. It's not even a change from legacy to what we have now, social media. So that, to me, that brings to challenges among others, and one of them, of course, is the sustainability bit, where the cake is now being shared among many, and even in terms of advertising spend, what the spread, how it's shared, and what that has on the media freedom, especially if you get into a situation where interests, political, economic, are controlling the budget. Do we have a situation of media capture? So that is one, on accountability, no, on sustainability, and then of course on accountability. How do we remain accountable? The systems we put in place, maybe as regulators, but also just as practitioners. My second reaction on the report is actually this digital space and the big tech. I'm happy that Temesi mentioned this point that as a government they're engaging big tech on not just on the regulation, but also on sharing the revenue. Because as we realize, most of the advertising revenue is going to Facebook, Meta, or Google, TikTok. And how do we play in that space to help the media? I think the other jurisdictions in Europe, the European Union, I think, Australia, they've come up with some laws that regulate the big tech and have a share where the newspaper groups or media houses have a share of the revenue. Now, to your question as to whether newspapers, I was an editor for many years. I worked in print for almost 30 years before I left in 2018. And I think at the time we were leaving is when most of these changes were happening. And I don't think print has to die. We don't have to write its obituary yet. And the reason is how do we react to these changes? How do we make print more self-sustaining? Looking at it from the state perspective, but also from within the media. There are many things that media can do to collaborate on that can help them to survive actually this bad phase. Yeah. So I don't think I want to say that media is print is going to die. Even if you look at other jurisdictions, in the US, for example, papers like the New York Times have been thriving. And the thing is, you have to invest in quality journalism. I think number one, for instance, for me, invest in quality journalism. Number two, I think these issues of data, know how to use technology to mine data. And then number three, on collaborations and partnerships, including with the state. And when it comes to the state, you have to know now how to relate and how to do public interest journalism. So that even if you are having fights with the state, pick fights on stories that are of public interest, not on these sensational things. Thank you.
Let's appreciate Mwanakima Wanyani, please. Now, it doesn't mean you're off the spot. I'll still come back to you, because I like the fact that you used New York Times as an example. And if you look at their revenue share over the last 3 years, they've been making very good money on their paywalls, and it's because of how they have reinvented their content. However, the question is still there in this country. Is our media making as much money, and why are they not making that money? And how can they ensure that that happens? I'll kindly ask you to pass the microphone over to Carol, who's right next to you. Carol Kimutai is the head of content and audiovisual storytelling at Knowlton Strategies. Now, Carol, you have been with us in mainstream media, and you shifted that to Knowlton. And basically what you guys are doing is strategic communication, developing different content. And the question definitely will be, where does the shift come in? And for you, from a legacy media perspective, all these changes that we are seeing up to a point where we are now being told in our report that most of the consumption of media has shifted to social media. How can legacy media, one, relook their content, try keep it fresh, and also just live up to the competing needs that we have at the moment, and that is the TikToks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, where we are getting most of our news from. Karibu. And also react to the report in your own way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'll start with the reaction to the report. I don't think it's a surprise that most of the young folks in newsrooms are below 45. I think it just mirrors the population in terms of the older are fewer, the younger people are more. But what is very distressing is, and especially to me, is a lot of these journalists don't have contracts. That really stood out for me. They are freelancers, they don't even have medical care, yet you want them to work very long hours, you want to send them to political rallies with very expensive equipment, and you want them to do very good journalism. So let's start there. And the fact that people like Wanyonyi here who have been in the newsroom, I don't know if they have the time and day for younger journalists, but I think Andy will comment about the support newsrooms are giving or not giving to young journalists, and the training opportunities, and so on and so forth. So that's my first reaction. My second reaction is, I was a bit sad to see radio is less than TV. For a very long time we've been told radio is king, but I think it's the fact that now radio is now multi. It can be consumed by the ear and the eyes. And the CEO is not here. David made fun of patanisho. For the people who live in a certain part of the city, I must say I listen to patanisho on Instagram, but I listen to it in the evening, because they convert those short stories into content that is consumed on social. And I'm sure there are other interviews that we see on social media, the Spice Show, Fixing the Nation. If you miss it in the morning, you consume it on your mobile. So I think the people doing the research need to figure out the conversion there, that I might not be listening to radio really, but I am actually listening to radio. So that's my first second. Then to your question on the shift, I think the shift has been there. It's only that the mainstream media, and I was part of it, were too slow to deal with it, and we were in denial for very, very many years. Until COVID forced us to stand up and sit back, but it was too late. The train had already left the station. During COVID time, that's when a lot of the newsrooms were adapting to Zoom. That's the time when editors, senior editors, realized you could actually work from home, but before you had to clock in, okay? So it was a wake-up call for us, but now we are in 2026. COVID happened in 2020. We are seeing the fruits of the delay that we had as a media, and we are now paying for those sins, omissions and commissions. So how can we pivot to ensure that we are meeting this audience? Number one is ensuring that we use a lot of data. The veterans in the room, I see my son here, used to use our gut feeling to see the big story of the day and decide that's the story. Someone spoke about Ford back in the day. But these days you can sit on a screen and see which story is gaining traction without really applying your gut feeling, okay? So we need to use data and those tools in the newsroom to ensure that these young people are able now to dig into those stories. It's okay to report Sebastian Sawe has done a substitute. We need to get the veterans to tell us what is the story of Sawe and the fact that his performance has been very consistent over the years. Okay? And then there's Kiplimo coming first. And who could be the next record breaker? So we need that depth in the newsroom. Explainers are very important. We need our newsrooms to know the audience. I am not the radio audience in the morning, but I am the radio audience on social media. Do we have that intelligence and that data to understand that I consume content in that way? So I think those are opportunities for me. We really don't have to reinvent the wheel. AI is there and has been there. We can target the news, and the New York Times and the Post have done that very well. They know that when I log in the morning, this is what I consume first, and when I go to sleep, this is what I consume last. I don't need to employ you to advise the editors that this audience consumed it this way. But an AI tool can be made an appropriated tool, as I conclude, for the newsrooms. We don't have to actually buy these foreign tools. We have quite a gifted population of young people within our newsrooms. Strathmore graduates IT students every year. We graduate a lot of students, and I always make fun that Molot has very smart people who are doing wonders the wrong way. Why can't we bring those kinds of brains to unlock some of the opportunities in the newsrooms and hopefully monetize the content that we keep locked away and complain that it's not being read? Thank you.
Let's appreciate Carol for that. Now I'll jump over to my senior here, Andy, because the first question was thrown to you in terms of the support that you're giving the journalists that are coming to your newsrooms. And even as I ask that, I know that the Standard Group were one of the first media houses to have a converged newsroom where you put everyone together. And the main purpose was to ensure that you had everyone at least leveraging on each other and at the same time producing content that was of good enough quality. Now, we are playing catch up as mainstream media, because just like Carol has rightfully put it, the fact that we put a gadget that can record both audio and video in citizens' hands means that in a lot of instances we are having to first get news from the citizen journalist, and then we now as the journalists trying to get a little bit deeper into it, and more or less playing the day-to journalism role. How is that affecting your newsrooms? And still remember to react to the report and also to the question that Carol asked. Karibu.
Thank you, Sunny. First is my reaction to the report. I listened to the CEO, and being a print person, I think he used a very, very harsh word, that the print is in terminal decline. I was worried because I've been a print person for almost the last 30 years in a newsroom, and it reminded me of a session I had in 2005. I sat in a newsroom somewhere. A publisher was being onboarded to head one of the biggest newspapers in Memphis. That is the Commercial Appeal. I think the guy is called Joseph Pepe. The name does not escape me. One thing that stood out, and that was 2005 November. One thing that stood out for me is that he said that newspapers are here to stay. And that's about almost 20 years ago. And here we are in Kenya. We have seen that newspapers are still here with us, but we have seen a sharp decline in the way consumers, our readers, get the information. The numbers, and this is not news to anybody, the numbers of print copies have gone down across all media houses. We used to do like almost over 100,000 copies. But today, if you talk to the circulation managers of the main media houses, they'll tell you that the combined circulation of newspapers in this country is less than 200,000 a day. Of course, we have even the free sheets. People never used to even pick the free sheets. What does that tell you? That the consumer habits have changed. But why we continue printing the newspaper? Yes, there's still that hunger for the newspapers. The numbers have gone down, but the newspapers are still spending a lot of money, even transporting those newspapers. For those who don't know, the newspapers are transported every morning, every evening by vans. Let me take a case of the Standard Group. We used to transport almost like 20,000 copies to Mombasa. Kisumu was a very good market, 20,000 copies. Now we have what you call the vans now go almost half empty because those numbers have gone down drastically, where we are doing less than almost like Kisumu, less than 10,000 copies. So it's true, there is a decline in the way that our consumers, especially the print, get their news, and it is about time that the media houses package and redefined what must we do to the print edition, because the print edition exists because there are certain regulations like the banks, they must run their balance sheet at the end of the half-year results. They must announce. There are some statutory requirements that government institutions and even private organizations, they must run them through almost like 2 daily newspapers. When I sit sometimes in our compound and see the vans leaving, then the following day we get returns and get a bit worried because the newspapers form a big chunk of the amount of money that is used for capex in terms of producing the newspaper. So yes, the newspaper production has fallen, but the numbers, the papers are not going to die anytime soon. Let me assure you, the numbers will fall, but the readership will still remain. Now to the issue of convergence. In 2021, I think it was 1st of March, 2021, the Standard Group made a very bold step, having come from COVID era. Then there was this high-end newsroom that you all see in media reports. Sometimes the KTN TV captures the same. People are saying that that was a wrong move at that particular time. But I can tell you, it paid off in many, many ways. One, we used to have journalists from one media house going to this to a press conference or going to cover one function. You find there used to be a guy from Radio Maisha, somebody from the Print, the Standard, somebody from KTN. Then they are all going to cover the same function. And we are talking about resources. You are using a company vehicle, and we are talking about the personnel also. We are using almost like 5 different people going to the same function. What this transformation did is that we now have fewer journalists, resources being used, going to cover functions. Then you'd find that before that, secondly, there was the internal competition that used to be within the media house. You find that you are in the newspaper, you see a story in the evening that you don't even have the following day, and vice versa. When you are working for KTN, then you see the Standard has got a major scoop that you guys don't have. So there was that internal competition that was within the same media house. So that was one of the advantage that Convergence brought to the Standard, because the editors plan for content together, both print, digital, TV and radio. So they're able to plan for the news content for all the platforms. Then lastly, there is the delivery of content. We realized that day 2 journalism was not going to work for us. We were no longer in the era where we used to have special editions. Cabinet reshuffle, the following day you have a special edition. We were no longer in that era. So what we said is that we must use now the platforms that we have. The digital first, a story that breaks today, you go digital first, then the TV, then the radio stations. Then day 2 journalism will not be about telling the story of a plane crash that killed 20 people yesterday. You are now developing that story to the next level. What caused the plane crash? You're not talking about the 20 people died. It will be all over in social media. People will be talking about it. So those are the 3 advantages that enabled the Standard Group to make a step, that bold step in convergence. Then coming to what Carol asked about, what are we doing about our young journalists in the newsroom? Yes, we are seeing many young journalists. Some of them are coming to the newsroom very raw in terms of they don't understand the operation of the newsroom. They have been into institutions, but us as the media house, we are not even giving them a chance even to come and visit, forget even about internship. Even newsroom visits, I think we are becoming too mean, even to organizations and academia. We are not giving them an opportunity to come and see what exactly we are doing in the newsroom. But I have told my fellow editors, we owe it to ourselves as the veterans in those newsrooms. Don't complain about these raw talents that you are getting in the newsroom. Do something about it, because the process must start with us as editors. I remember when I first entered the newsroom, that time it was at Nation House many years ago. I can attest that I got very good support from editors like Tegi Jao, Patrick Mungai was the features editor. They held my hand, and that's how I was able to gain confidence in the newsroom. So we must do the same today. And also recognize that these young people, their way of working is not the same as how we used to work. Some of us came into the newsroom when the technology was not even there. We must allow them the space to use technology and help us develop the story. So it is on us as veterans to assist the young journalists who are coming into the newsroom. Let's not make noise about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andy, let's appreciate Andy. Interestingly, I think you are throwing arrows at your neighbor, Dr. Akiniva, so just hand him over the microphone. When you're literally talking about the kind of journalists that are being churned off our institutions. Dr. Akiniva, I know we had a conversation with you yesterday, and we were looking at these changing dynamics. And I think one of the key questions that came up was, one, are we as academia giving the industry journalists that are not very well prepared, one. Two, there is the whole issue of convergence. And let's call it cross-platform journalism, where you're bringing out a journalist who's expected to cover different topics, cover across different mediums. Is this young person fully prepared for it? Where before, we had institutions that generally ensured that our journalists specialized in certain a certain aspect. So if you're a broadcast journalist, you'd stick to broadcast. If you're a print journalist, it will be that way. If you cover certain topics, you'd have somebody who's very good at business, another one very good at sports, another very good at agriculture, and so on and so forth. But right now, the journalist that is leading this institution is expected to not only know everything, but be able to cover across the different mediums. And lastly, we also have the emergence of artificial intelligence. How is that shaping journalism? We have editors that are really complaining about the use of AI at this particular moment in newsrooms. And I think it will only be fair for you to also touch about how AI can be used constructively in journalism. Karibu.
Thank you very much for those very loaded questions. But it goes back to what has been talked about here. We remember Marshall McLuhan saying that the medium is the message. And that was under technological determinism. So the technology. So that discussion is really not that new. And if you read around McLuhan and other people, the role of technology is, and it's like he was prophetic. So that's where we are right now. So how is the media space right now? I would say there's structural changes, structural disruption. He's alluded to when they started and how there was no technology, because we go back to standalone technologies, converging, and now it is disruptive. So that is one thing. The other challenge is how do we deal with the question of knowledge, the question of truth? How do we then begin to package that? And you talked about what are we doing with the students we have. So when we are talking about that transformation, algorithms are taking control of visibility, and that is being used. Also, the rise of the creative matters were in the CEO's report. So we have brands, we have independent. This takes us into the area of citizen journalism, democratization, and the people now, the participants, may not the way they were trained and how they train. And therefore, it would mean that we have to change the way we train, the way we teach. The other thing on the transformation, the disruption of AI. We would be saying media and the AI and media because of what is journalist who has depth in terms of how they trust. This has been talked about at length, trust. How do we in Ghana? Our degree is in communication, not per se journalism. When we started, it's like we could see where the media was going. And therefore, our curriculum offering here is quite broad. If you look at that banner, it will show you. And recently, we had a change. We have brought in production, media production. We brought in digital platforms. We brought in digital storytelling. And in fact, Dr. Kingor is here, the one who is heading the communications program. So that is how we are training our young people. We have also introduced photography, videography. We have also introduced software, how they can deal with that. And from our sister faculties, there are other programs on digital matters. So that's what we are doing at the moment. So the product has to align to what the